Hello again. As you know, I'm Eli the Computer Guy over here for Everyman IT, and today's class is navigation in Linux. So today's class, we're going to talk about how you get around in Linux, how you change directories and such, how you find files and folders in Linux, how you make directories, how you remove directories, how do you copy files, etc. And then finally, how you mount drives. Again, when you first come into the Linux world, all of this seems very complicated and it seems like it's hard and horrible and gonna be over your head. But it's all very simple. Things like mounting drives. A lot of people get really nervous about mounting a drive. It's really actually dirt simple. It's a couple of steps, and if you understand what's going on, you can do it about that quick. So today's class is navigation in Linux. Again, we're going to talk about how you actually navigate, how you get around, how you find things, how you create directories, how you delete directories, and then how you mount drives. This is very, very important stuff for the Linux world. So the first thing that we have to talk about is changing directories and finding files. So in the last class on Vim, we talked about how you edit things like php.ini files. Now, as you sit there and you're looking at the file system, you probably have no idea where the php.ini file is. Well, that's why I'm going to show you how you find the php.ini file or whatever file it is you're looking for, and then how you navigate to it. So in the Linux world, to change directories, to go to a new directory, you use the same command that you use in Windows. All you do is you type in cd, and that's for change directory. Now, the difference in the Linux world is Linux is very literal. And so after cd, there's a space, and then you type the folder path that you want to go to. So if you're in the root directory now, and under the root directory is the etc folder, if you wanted to go to the etc folder, all you would do, and you're here, you're in the root directory, you would say cd space etc. Now, no, there's no forward slash here, there's no slashes, it's just cd space etc. This is the command that will get you into the folder. So if you're in root, this will now get you down into the etc folder. Now, if you're trying to get to the etc folder, but let's say you're over here in the var folder, right? So you're in the var folder, which is in root, and you're trying to get to the etc folder that's in root. What you would do, since you're here, is you would do cd space forward slash, because forward slash means root, etc. So that means you're here, it'll make you go to root, and then it'll drop you into the etc folder in root. So this is very, very, very important. The reason is let's say we have a bigger folder structure here. And so you have the root here, then you have your folder etc, right? Now let's say you have your folder, I don't know, var, and in this folder is www. Now, if you are in var and you want to go to the www folder, so this is the web root folder in a Linux computer, the command you want to type would be cd space www. That's the command you want to change. Change directory space to www. So you're in var, and you want to go to www. That's how you would get there. If you type in cd space forward slash www, what Linux is going to look for is it's going to look to root, and it's going to try to find a www folder in root. Of course, that doesn't exist, and so it will fail out. So basically, when you are navigating in Linux, for the most part, forget about this whole forward slash thing. If you're trying to get to a folder that's below you, you just do space and then the name of the folder. If you're trying to get to a folder below root, so let's say you're in the www folder right now, and you're trying to get to etc, then you would type cd space forward slash, because that's to root, and then etc. So Linux would go, okay, it's changing the directory to root to etc. Okay, I'll drop you in there. See, that's all It's all pretty simple, basically, if you just understand that. Now, once you're in a directory, it's always important or a nice thing to find out what else is in that directory. So you get into you are in the etc directory, and then you go, what file was it I was supposed to change? I just forget the name of it. Well, to list files in Linux, you simply use the command ls. And then depending on what you want to do, one of two arguments generally. If you do ls-l, what will happen is all the files and folders will get listed. It will show you the permission for those files and folders, the date they were modified, the group ownership of the files and folders, and the individual owner. So it'll say, it'll give you all of that information, basically all written out. Now, a lot of times that can turn into a really big file. So what you can also do is if you do ls-m, instead of giving you a really long list, it just types everything into a nice block so you can see everything that's there. So I'll show you this on the computer in a second, but it's pretty simple. Basically, if you're trying to list the contents of a directory, you use ls command, and then normally I use the -l that lists everything out in a list. Like I say, it gives you the name, gives you permissions, it shows you the permissions, the group ownerships, the individual owners, etc. Or you can do -m. It just writes everything out in a block, and I'll show that to you in a second. So that's all you have to do to list files and folders in Linux. Now finally, again, this where you need to edit a folder or a file, the php.ini file and such, but you have absolutely no idea where that file is. Well, thankfully, of course, Linux does have a search option. So in order to search for files and folders, this is really simple. All you do is sudo, again, super user do, space, find, so find, space, the next argument I need you to put in here, and it's -iname, all lowercase. What this does is it makes this search case insensitive. So remember, as we talked about before, in Linux, uppercase and lowercase letters are different. Well, especially since you are new, you may not know which files have uppercase letters and which files have lowercase letters. If you put in this argument, iname, it makes it case insensitive. So if you put in that you're looking for uppercase home or lowercase home, all these files would be found. So if you were looking for sudo find iname and then you put in home, it would bring you the results of this, of this, of this. Whereas if you mess up the capitalization, it may come back with no results because no results match the capitalization. But that's all it is. It's pretty dirt simple. So in order to find files or folders, again, you want to put in the sudo command. If you don't put in the sudo command, find will fail out. But it will fail out in the most obnoxious way of it won't tell you it failed out. It just simply will not give you any results. So you'll think that the file doesn't exist on the computer. When it does exist, you just didn't use sudo. So sudo space find space -iname, this means case insensitive, space, and then whatever it is you're looking for, home, php.ini, etc. Again, with whatever file or folder you're looking for, you can use wildcards. In this track, I just talk about the one main wildcard of asterisks. So you can use asterisks. This means anything beforehand and anything after. So let's say you're looking for the php.ini file, you could do php star. And this means anything that starts with PHP will show up. So if you're looking for files and folders that relate to PHP, if you put in PHP star, that will show up. If you're looking for configuration files, let's say you don't know exactly what configuration file you're looking for. Most configuration files in Linux, just as kind of a default what everybody does, end with .conf. CONF means a configuration file. So if you're looking for a configuration file, but you don't know exactly what the name is, you could do a find for star.conf, and that would find every file that ends in .conf. So that's Pretty simple. So changing directories again, CD space and then the directory you're going to. Remember, don't use slash or forward slashes. If you use that forward slash, it will go to root directory and then look down from there. So that can cause you problems. Once you're in a directory, you're trying to see what's in the directory, you use the ls command, basically the list command, space, and then either -l, and that gives you the full details of all the files and folders in that directory, or -m, and that all just kind of shoves it all together just so you can really quickly scan through everything that's there. Finally then, we talked about the find, because especially being new, you probably have no idea where a lot of the files and folders reside. Well, this is an easy way to find it. All you do is sudo space find space -iname, remember case insensitive, space whatever it is you're looking for. And again, wildcards work. So that I'm really big on the whole asterisk for doing Linux searches, especially at this point for you. So with that, let's go to the computer. I'll show you how all this works, and then we'll go to creating and removing directories. Okay, so here we are sitting at the root directory on the Ubuntu server. So in order to change directories, like I say, let's go into the etc directory. So we are in root and we want to go to the etc directory. All we do is we do cd space etc, nothing else. And that drops us in to the etc directory. You will now see on the left-hand side, right beside the cursor, it shows you what directory that you're in. Now, if we are in the etc directory and we want to go to the www directory, this is going to get a little confusing, but you'll understand it, once you start doing a little Linux administration. But etc folder is in the root directory. The www folder is in the var folder, which is in the root directory. So if we want to go to the www folder from right here, all we do is we do cd and then we do the path. So we do /, which means root, then we type in var, which is a folder, and then www. We hit enter and we are now in the root var www folder. See how easy that is? So let's go back to the root to show you how not to put in a directory. So we go cd space / root. So we are now in the root directory. Now let's do cd space var. So we are now going into the var directory. Now just so you see how this works, if I now want to get into the www directory, if I type cd space / www, this is what you would do in the Windows world, and if you hit enter, no such file or directory exists. The reason is because it's looking for the www folder in root, and of course it doesn't exist. So from there, let's go back, change directory, and /. So that's all you have to do to change directories. Like I say, it's very easy. If you're trying to go into a folder one level below you, you just do cd space and whatever that folder is. And if you want to go through a full path, then you can do cd space root, var www, and however far it goes down. So we are now sitting in the root directory, and we're scratching our head and we wonder what is in the root directory. This is where we can use the list command. So we do ls space -l. So basically ls list, and this now gives us a list of the files and folders in this directory, and it also gives you a lot of information about the files and folders in this directory. As you can see to the left hand side, you see that drw xr all that kind of stuff. That is something we'll go into a class later, but that is all the permissions. So that's read, write, execute permission, read, execute permission, read, execute permission. So once you understand permissions and groups and all of that, that's very important. So that tells you who can access these files and folders. Beyond that, you will then see first root. So this says the user that owns this file or folder and the group that owns this file or folder. Again, This will make sense in the permissions class, but right now just accept that it exists. Then as you go over, you'll see the last time that it was modified, 8/17/2010, and then of course it gives you the name, bin, boot, CD-ROM, etc. So that's very easy. So that's LSL. Now this is big. This has a lot of information. But if you want a simpler list, and you just want to see what's on the folder pretty quickly, you can do ls space -m, and if you do that, what it does, if you look down there at the bottom, is it just gives you the files and folders without all of that extraneous information. This isn't that big a deal right here with the root directory because there's not a lot in it, but some directories like etc or some others have a lot of stuff in there. So sometimes you don't want to see all the permissions and group ownership and user ownership. You just want to see the exact files and folders. In order to see that, you just do ls-m, and that will show you everything in that directory. So now that I've shown you that, now the next thing is finding stuff. So we have been talking, let me just clear the screen. We have been talking about the PHP file, a .ini file a lot. So you set up your LAMP server, your web server, and you're like, Eli, where is the PHP.ini file? Well, in order to find that file, all we do is we do the find command like I talked about. So we do sudo, and like I say, you always want to do sudo for find, because if you don't use sudo, find will fail. And like I say, it won't fail by giving you any normal things that you would think is a failure. It just won't return anything back. And so you may think that the file or folder doesn't exist when it really does exist, but you didn't use sudo. So always use sudo. In Ubuntu, always use sudo. So we do sudo find, then we do space -iname, and this iname again is case insensitive. Then we'll use a couple of wildcards just to make sure we get it right. So we do the asterisk, then we do php.ini asterisk. This says anything before php.ini, anything after php.ini, and then we hit enter. And this now shows us different php.ini files. And so you can see there may be files that you would be interested in that you didn't realize, like the hyphen production, the hyphen.cli, the production distribution. Like sometimes when you download a package with PHP files in it, they may have a number of different php.ini configuration files depending on what you're trying to do, and they'll name it different things. So by putting the wildcard in there, you can see those other different configurations. So we see all the way at the bottom the php.ini2. That was that little backup file that I created when we were creating files with Vim. And then finally, you see the php.ini file itself. So, since we know Vim, we could go, there's a php.ini file. So if I want to edit the php.ini file using Vim, we can do sudo and then just do the path sudo vim space /etc/php5/apache2 /php.ini, and then we just open it up, and we are back into the php.ini file. So changing directories, listing all the contents in the directory, and finding files and folders in Linux really is not hard, again, as long as you know the commands. So let's go back out to the real world. So now we need to talk about making directories, we need to talk about deleting directories and folders, we need to talk about copying files and folders, and moving or renaming files and folders. Again, this is all pretty simple as long as you know the commands. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about creating a folder. Very simple. All you do is you do sudo superuser-do space mkdir, make directory, and then whatever the directory it is that you want to make. So make directory folder, space folder. This will make a folder called folder. Now, if you don't put in a full file path, then it will simply create this folder in whatever directory you are currently in. So if you're currently in the etc directory, it will create the folder in the etc directory. You can use a full file path when you do this command. So you could do sudo make directory / etc / I don't know, interfaces, or no, network / folder. And now, no matter where you are in the system, this would create a folder in the network folder that's in the etc folder that's in root directory. So that's all you have to do to create a file or a folder within Linux. Sudo space make mkdir space the folder name or the folder name and the full path. That's all you have to do. Now, to delete files and folders, it's just as simple. So I'm going to show you using the same command to use to delete both files and folders. Again, you do sudo space, and then you do rm for remove, and then you put the file or folder name. Now, if you're doing a file, all you do is you do sudo space rm space file, and that will delete the file. The file will be gone. If you're deleting a folder, what you need to do is you do sudo space rm space the folder name or the full folder path if necessary, space hyphen uppercase R. This means recursive. Recursive means do the same thing to everything else that's in this folder. So if you're trying to delete the folder and all the contents of the folder, you do sudo remove folder recursive R. That will delete everything in the folder. So it'll delete the folder and everything in it. If you don't use this -R, most of the time it will fail out. So to remove, to delete a file or folder, if it's a file, sudo rm file. If it's a folder, sudo rm folder -R. Pretty simple. That's all there is to do it. Now, in the Linux world, there is no command to rename files and folders. Basically, they have the move command, and the move command both can move a file or folder, or it can also simply rename it. So with the move command, if you're trying to rename a file or folder, all you do is you do sudo move space mv, so for move, the old file name, and then space the new file name. So if you wanted to, I don't know, take a file called file1 and make it file2, what you would say sudo move file1 space file2. That now renames file1 to be file2. Now, if you were trying to move a file somewhere else, all you would do, same command, sudo move, and then let's say it's in root, so root file1, and you want to move that to root etc file1. Now, with this command, it says file1 that's in the root directory, move that to the etc directory as file1. That is simply how you move or rename things in Linux. Again, pretty simple. Now, if you're trying to copy a file, so you're trying to copy a file for whatever reason, like a lot of times, especially when we're dealing with these configuration files, you should create a backup file before you start messing around with the original file, because if you mess up the original file, that's a bad thing. So what you can do is you do sudo space copy is simply cp, cp, and then you do whatever file you're copying. So you do file space and then what you want the copy to be called. So normally for backup files, they do .back, so whatever the file is. So you would do sudo space cp space file .bak. And so this is a backup of the original file in case you do anything stupid. It's all really simple. So this is how it works. Let's go over to the computer and I'll show you how simple this is. So here we are back at the Linux server, So let's first create a folder so that we have a folder to play in. As you can see right now, left of the little blinking cursor, we are in the root directory. So we're in the highest level directory. So from here, I'm going to make a test directory. So we'll do sudo mkdir space, and then whatever the name of the directory it is we want it to be. So testdir. That will create, or that did create, the test directory. If we do ls-l now, if you look down at the bottom, about 5 from the bottom, you'll see the test directory was created. Now to change into the test directory, all you do is you do cd space testdir. And we are now in the test directory, as you can see at the left of the little blinking cursor. Now, once we're in the test directory, let's create another directory so we can play with it. So we do sudo mkdir, and then we'll say test1. So that just created the test1 folder. You can see, it's owned by root, group root, all the permissions, etc. for test1. Now, if we want to copy that folder, so let's say we want to create a backup. Let's say we're going to go into test1 and do something weird and we don't know what's going to happen. So we just want to create a backup of the test1 folder. All you do is you do sudo cp, then the name of the folder you're copying, so test1, and the name you want to of what you want the copy to be. So we'll just say test1.bak. .bak is normally what people just call a backup file. And then we'll do space. And since this is a folder, we want to do recursive, so we do R. And then we hit enter. So that just created a copy of test1 and made it test1.bak. So if we do ls-l, we see that the 2 folders that are in there. Now let's say we made a complete hash of test1. Whatever we did, it was really, really bad. So we want to convert the backup back into being the original folder. So first we need to delete the original folder, and to do that we use the rm command. So you do sudo rm for remove test1, and then you have to do recursive -r. Since this is a folder, if this was a file, you would not put this -r at the end, but since this is a folder, you do, and then you hit enter. Now if we do ls-l, we see that there is now only one folder in this folder. So in order to rename test1.bak into test1, we use the move command. So we do sudo mv test1.bak, and then test1. This is what we want the new name to be. Now with this, you actually don't use recursive. The move doesn't use recursive, and then we hit enter. Now if we do ls-l, we can see that test1 is back again. So we renamed test1.bak to test1. So that's how to create a directory, it's mkdir. To copy a directory, it's cp. To rename a directory, you just use the mv, the move command, and to delete a directory, you use the rm. Now, if you're dealing with directories, always put that uppercase R at the end, because that means recursive. So basically what it says is anything you do to this folder, do to all subfolders and all subfiles. The only command here that you don't use the -r on is the move command. It's just kind of how it is. So let's go back out to the real world and we'll talk about mounting drives. So we've shown you how to change directories, how to list directories, how to find things, how to make folders, how to delete folders, copy folders, move folders, etc. The final big thing that you have to understand in order to navigate around in Linux is mounting drives. So this is where you have an external hard drive and you plug it in the computer and you need to mount the drive. Now that external hard drive could be a normal hard drive like you're thinking about, one of those little metal bricks, or it could be a flash drive. That is considered a hard drive in Linux, the CD-ROM drive. So in Linux, basically any drive that you would connect to the computer is a drive that would have to be mounted. Again, this is all very simple. as long as you just follow a few steps. So the first thing that you have to understand is how the mounting process works in Linux. What is going to happen is the first thing that you do is you are going to create a folder for your mount point. So basically, the first thing you do is you create a folder. Then you grab some specific information about the hard drive and you point that folder to that hard drive, and that's essentially how you mount the drive. So that folder now gets tied to the hard drive. Again, this is all pretty simple. So let's say we're trying to mount a hard drive. The first thing that we would do is we would make a directory. So we do sudo, and then we do space mkdir, like I showed you before, space, then from root normally, you do /mnt. This means mount point. This is kind of like one of those standard things that everybody does. This is kind of important in the future when we start talking about backups and doing things with the entire hard drive. Just basically whatever folders you make for mount points, put them into the mnt folder in root. It will make your life easier for a while. Then you do / and then whatever you want to call the mount point. So you could call it backup, you could call it drive, etc. So we are just going to call it drive. So the first thing you do is you make a directory. Sudo space mkdir space / mount, so this is for a mount point, / drive. This is the folder that the hard drive is going to get mounted to. Once you do this, the next thing you have to do is find out the information about the hard drives that you're trying to mount. So to do this, you run the command fdisk space -l. So this is going to list the physical hard drives that are connected to your system right now. This is going to give a list, and I'll show this to you when we do the demonstration. In that list, it's going to show you the different hard drives, how much space they have, etc. So in there, you're looking for something that's going to look like /dev /sda5. This is what you're going to be looking for, something like this. This is how Linux defines that hard drive. So in order to mount the hard drive, all we're going to do once we find this information is we're going to do sudo superuser do space mount space this hard drive identifier. I'll show you how to get in a minute. So dev SDA5 space and then your mount point /MNT DRIVE. This is all you do to mount this particular hard drive. Now you can go and you can change directories to this, so /MNT /drive, and you can do an ls.-l and it will list all of the information that's on that hard drive. That is all you have to do to mount a hard drive or a CD-ROM. So it's sudo, first you have to make a directory to mount to. Sudo mkdir space, like I say, /MNT /drive. You don't have to do it this way. This is just a best practice, which will matter once we go into backup routines in another couple of classes. That creates this drive folder in the MNT folder. Then, to find information about your hard drives, you do fdisk space -l. So this will list the physical hard drives that are connected to the computer and information about them. You're going to grab a piece of information that looks like this, /dev /sda5. Then to mount this hard drive to this folder, you just do sudo mount space this information space this information, and that's what mounts everything together. Now once you're done with that hard drive, if you want to unmount it, so let's say you want to plug in another flash drive, all you do is you do umount. Umount unmounts the hard drive. Pretty easy. Now finally, in Ubuntu Linux, one of the problems is you have this fancy new operating system installed, but you don't know how to get to the CD-ROM. So you have a CD-ROM or a DVD-ROM, but you have no idea how to get to it. You are going to have to mount that CD-ROM drive. In Ubuntu, they make this very easy. You still use the mount command. So what you're going to do is you're going to make a directory. You know, I'd say make a directory mnt/CD-ROM, right? So this is a folder that you create, sudo make directory mount CD-ROM. Then all you do to mount to this folder is you do sudo space mount space, and then it's /dev/CD-ROM. This will always be the same for Ubuntu. We'll put this in the notes. And then you do space mnt space CD-ROM. This will mount your CD-ROM drive. So if you have information that you need to get off of a CD-ROM drive, this is what you do. So now, once you've mounted that CD-ROM drive, you can now go in, and you could go change directory, mnt CD-ROM, and now you can read that CD-ROM just like it was any other hard drive on the computer. Again, seems pretty simple, seems pretty easy. Let's go over to the server and I'll show you how all this works. So we're back at the server. I have plugged a flash drive into the server so that we can mount it and navigate through it. So the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to need to create that directory so the flash drive has something to mount to. So what we're going to do is we're going to say sudo, and so right now, as you can see, we're in the root directory. So we do sudo mkdir for make directory space, then /mnt. MNT, the folder is for mount points, and then we'll create a folder called flash drive. So this is going to create a folder, flash drive, and then we hit enter. Now that's done. Now if we navigate to the flash drive folder, so we do cd mnt, we're now in the flash drive folder, and I want to show you that there is nothing in the flash drive folder. This is just an empty folder. So now we get out of the flash drive folder since we've created it. So we've created this folder so that we can mount to it. Now we have to figure out what drive it is that we are going to be mounting to this flash drive folder. To do that, we do sudo fdisk space -l. So this will list the drives or the disks on your computer. Now if you look, you'll see that there's boot device, you'll see dev sda1, and over at the right hand side it will say system Linux, and you'll see dev sda2 extended, dev sda5, oh that's a Linux swap file. Now all the way at the bottom you'll see device, and it'll say dev sdb1, and then you'll look across and it'll say like system fat32, and you go, that's the drive that I want to mount. Figuring out which drive you want to mount, depending on how many drives are in the system, it can be sometimes of a crapshoot. This is something that you just have to get used to, used to seeing what's supposed to be there and what you want to mount to. So with this, I know that I now want to mount the dev /sdb1 drive to my mount point. So in order to do that, all you do is you do sudo mount command, then you put in the drive that you're mounting. So /dev /sdb1 space, and then the folder you're mounting to. So /mnt /flash drive. So this will mount the dev sdb1 to the flash drive folder. Then you hit enter, waits half a second, and now it's done. Now if we navigate to the flash drive folder, so we'll go change directory, and then we'll go mnt flash drive. We're now in the flash drive folder, and if I do an ls-l, you'll see that there are these files that are on the folder. So this is my little flash drive I have in my key ring. So you'll see there's spybot, search and destroy on there, an example of a website, etc. So I showed you before, you created the flash drive folder, and originally it was completely empty. All you have it there is so that the drive can get mounted to it. As soon as the drive is mounted to it, then you can look inside. So you can move folders here, you can copy folders, you can delete folders, you can do whatever you want. Now that the drive has been mounted, it's just like any other directory on the machine. So now if you want to unmount the drive, you just do cd, and we'll go back to the root directory, and then you do sudo umount for unmount, of course. Then you do space, then you just unmount the drive that we mounted. So dev sdb1, and then hit enter. And now the drive has been unmounted. If we go back to our flash drive and we do an LSL, it is now back to being an empty drive. So that is all you have to do to mount drives and unmount drives. So first you create a folder that the drive is going to be mounted to. You then run fdisk-l to see the drives that are connected to the system. When you get that list, like I say, you're looking for the /dev /sda5 or /sdb1, whatever it is. You then take that name and then you do sudo mount that name to the folder that you created, and that drive is now mounted to that folder. You can now navigate into that folder, copy, delete, etc. In order to unmount the drive, you just do the umount command. This is exactly the same thing that you would do for the CD-ROM, except you don't have to do the fdisk. All you do is you do sudo mount space /dev /CD-ROM, and then whatever folder it is you want to mount the CD-ROM to. It's really that simple. So let's go back out and have some final thoughts. So that's all there is to navigation in Linux. Again, like I say, the only reason this is scary and the only reason anybody's ever nervous about this is they don't know the commands to run. Once you understand the commands that you need to run, it all gets very easy. Again, you know, with all these Linux classes, this is a very simple level, so I did not show you all the options. If what I showed you today doesn't do everything you need to do, by all means go to Google, use man pages, etc. to find out the options that you need. Again, with Linux, the sky is the limit on stuff that you can do. I'm trying to bring this down to a level that you guys will understand. So we talked about changing directory, very easy. CD, and then wherever you're going to. Pretty simple. In order to list information in directories, you know, the files and folders, you do ls space -l, and that presents you a whole list with what the permissions are, users, etc. Or ls-m, that just brings you a block of a list. You know, making directories, deleting files, copying files, all pretty simple. To make a directory, it's mkdir, and then whatever you want the directory to be called. To remove or to delete a file or folder, it's rm. If you're deleting a folder, after the folder name, put uppercase R. That means recursive. That means it will delete everything else that's in that folder. To move a file or folder, it is simply mv, Mike Victor. Remember, MV not only moves, but you also use it to rename. So if you're trying to rename file 1 to be called file 2, you do sudo mv file 1 space file 2. That would then rename file 1 to be file 2. Pretty simple. Then of course there is the copy command if you're trying to copy a file or folder. Sudo cp, then the source, what you're copying, and then the destination, where you're copying to. Really, really, really easy. Then we talked about mounting drives. Mounting drives, again, is simple as long as you know what to do. The first thing that you need to do is you need to create a folder that the hard drive will be mounted to. Once you create the folder, then you find the information for the hard drive, and then you tell Linux, I want this hard drive to be connected to this folder. Once that happens, then you can navigate through that folder just like it was any other folder on the system. So you make a directory. Again, I would suggest you make the directory within a directory called mnt underneath root. So /mnt/ whatever you want that drive to be called. The reason for this is, again, in the future, we're going to be talking about backup routines and such, and you're going to need to exclude these external hard drives unless you just want to back up a whole mess of stuff that you probably don't want to back up. If you don't put all these mount points in one single folder, then it gets really hard to exclude everything. You have to type out a lot of information. Whereas, when I show you how to back up things using tar, you can just do exclude /mnt and be done with it, versus having to type in, /cdrom, /this, so it matters. I would say put all of your mount points into one place. Again, to unmount a drive, once you need to unmount a drive, you just do mount. Really simple. If you're trying to mount the CD-ROM in Ubuntu, it's always the same, just to basically make your life easier. So it's /dev/CD-ROM will always be what you use to mount the CD-ROM. So you just do sudo mount /dev/CD-ROM space /mnt /CD-ROM, or whatever you want to call that mount point, and that's it. The one thing to remember with the mount points, as I talked about them today, is they only exist while the computer is booted up. So these are they're not forever. You can go into a configuration file and make sure that the mount points always exist, but if you reboot your system after you do these mount points, all those mount points will go away. They will no longer exist, so be careful about that. Just something to understand. So I think that's pretty simple. I think that's pretty easy if you try to break it out all down. This was navigation in Linux. As always, I am Eli the Computer Guy for Everyman IT, and I look forward to seeing you in the next class.